Okay, we'll call the meeting order. Regular meeting of the Newman City Council, September 14, 2004. Please stand for the pledge and remain standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow our heads. Lord, thank you for allowing us to meet this evening, and please guide us in our decisions we make for the citizens of Newman. Amen.
Amen.
A roll call, please.
Present. Present.
Present. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Do we have any? Ceremonial matters. Communications from staff. Guys, wake up back there, huh?
Well, you know, this is our favorite part.
I know.
We have paving has now taken place out at the business park. The only thing we're waiting for now is there's a separate contractor, Conco West, that'll come in once PG&E comes back and does a joint trench. They'll come back and lay the electrical and then put the pumps in for the storm drainage basins. And the project will be complete. We're moving forward with escrow with Norbert Rocha. And then we have a meeting next Friday with another potential developer out there who has submitted a package to us. So we'll be meeting with him next week, or John and I will be meeting with him next week to discuss potential sites for him and review the proposal that he has sent to us. At such point that John and I have sat down and talked with him and give a thorough review of his project, and we will bring it to you as the redevelopment agency board to move forward on the project or to skip on the project, whatever your desire should be. With that, the intersection project should be going in the next week or two. There were some issues with the railroad and getting right away, and some of the subcontractors had not gotten their railroad insurance yet, so minor delay in that. But everything's approved. They've already had a pre-construction meeting out there. We have city public works inspectors that would be doing the majority of the inspections, and then Caltrans will just come and oversee us after we get some billable hours there. So
SPC has already made their adjustments.
Yes. And what it is we've come to an agreement where the railroad or the developer is going to put in some conduits, some sleeves, so that they can pull some line through there. We've shown them that we've recognized that they have underground facilities and that we're not going to breach their 24-inch clearance, and they're happy with that. So in lieu of the developer putting in some sleeves on the railroad side, they decided they would agree to hurry up and expedite the relocation of the telephone poles on the west side.
It's nice to see that progressing, particularly when we extended the deadline to the end of October.
Correct.
Rather than December. But I've been pretty happy about seeing that.
Yes.
Michael, in the business park, has anybody else returned packages other than that one
No.
developer? That's
We've
it.
only had one submittal.
Did we put a timeline on there? We
Didn't
not?
put a timeline.
Okay.
It's up to them to really come to us. And
Okay.
in terms of, we're still looking out and looking for other possibilities. So.
Good. Questions for Michael? No. Thank you, Michael. Ernie?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I only have one informational item. Day after tomorrow, our public works crews increased by one, so I want to thank you again for allowing us to fill that position and help us try to catch up on all the tasks that we've fallen behind on. And I'd be happy to try to answer any question or any concern you may have at this time.
Questions?
I have a concern, Ernie, ongoing concern that the citizens of Newman continue to complain about water pressure, and I know that this keeps coming back from different people. And what I'm wondering is if there's any way to truly evaluate our system to see if there really is a drop in pressure, because let me explain to you, there was a person just recently repiped everything as a plumber, did everything in this house. He changed all and made sure the pipes were not restricted. It turned his water on, he had good pressure. As soon as his neighbor turned his water on one side of him, he lost pressure. Well, to me, that indicates that he's losing pressure when a neighbor turns it on. It has nothing to do with his pipes. So I'm just wondering if there's some way we can evaluate our city and know exactly what's going on.
What I would like, Councilman, is have that person get directly in touch with me, and I'll go out and I'll investigate it. Because you see, our system is a loop system completely, and our computer keeps the pressure constantly at about 53 pounds. We could increase it higher, but we have concerns because over in the older sections of town, we have some steel lines. And when we increase the pressure too much, those tend to, we tend to get leaks and breaks in the old water mains. So that's why we keep it about 53 pounds. I live at the furthest end of Creek Canyon down there, and I don't have any problems with pressure or volume of water. So it may be something internal. If you would have him call me and we would investigate it. We had one gentleman not too long ago that lived in Goldenrod, and he called and he emailed the city along with the same concerns, and he was saying that he didn't have any water. And when we sent out one of our water department personnel to check out his system, he found out that he had a closed valve on one of his water purification systems, and that was causing us problems. As soon as he fixed that, he was happy as could be. So it could be something internal.
Okay, I will get the name back to you, but as we all know, we keep hearing from our citizens, not formally but informally a lot of times, that there is this problem. And what I would like to see is that the system, if it is, can we evaluate the system? Can we determine the system is functioning the way it's supposed to?
The way we do that is we all have water pressure gauges that we carry in our vehicles, including myself. And we'll go out, and whenever somebody has an issue with water pressure, we'll go and we'll put it on their hose bib, and we'll ask them to come out and take a look, and the pressure is there over 50 pounds, at least 50 pounds. Again, pressure and volume are two different things. You may have the pressure, but you may not have the volume due to a restricted line somewhere in your system. So the pressure is not going to do you any good if you have something restricted. It could be a half-closed valve. It could be a number of things. It could even be out by the meter. It could
Okay.
that would be the best way to address
Okay,
it,
I
Councilman.
won't belabor the point. I'll get the gentleman.
And I would like to tell the audience that please do call if you do have any water issue problems. Call the water department at 862-4448. We'll be out and we'll investigate and we'll do our best to help you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ernie.
You're welcome.
Ernie, just a second.
What a second.
We,
Yes.
we do have some areas in the older part of town, as you said, that are problems with the steel pipe. Is there any way we could find out where those are and get a cost estimate on repairing all of those and see if it's worthwhile to do that?
We do have those. We do know where those are located. Mostly they're over north of Yolo, between Lee and Fig Lane, and those go behind those houses there, and those are a lot of wharf heads, 2-inch and 4-inch steel lines, and those are the ones that need to be worked on. There's also the entire alley between L and M Street on the east side of the city, and that is entire 4-inch main all the way across. And we've budgeted them in the past, but they've been cut before going to council because due to lack of funds and trying to maintain a balanced budget.
I know in where I live, it's the same problem.
Yes, you have just a short little run right off of T Street into that Kern Street area, and that's also a steel line, and that also needs to be replaced.
I get about 5 to 7 gallons a minute. So.
As opposed to 17
Right.
or so, yes.
Don't forget our street in Stevens too. We have leaks every week over there.
Yeah, the hoses are splitting, and those hoses, I call them hoses instead of service lines because that's what they actually are. And they're really restricted. Instead of having your 1-inch polyethylene lines that will provide you that amount of water, you've got something like a little 5/8 or 1/2-inch garden hose that goes to those homes there, and they're splitting horizontally, so they're difficult to repair and difficult to get any volume of water to those homes.
Have we done any more with that, is, try and get them all fixed at once rather than dig up the street all the time? And
We would have, it's a major project, it's a major undertaking. We would have to go in there and excavate each service line individually and replace it. And so it's going to take some major doing.
it's probably something the city shouldn't take on, but it...
Right, no, our workforce
The
is...
group of homeowners there that, in that particular area, because it was done when the homes were built, I think.
That's correct.
Thank you, Ernie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ernie.
Mhm.
Ernie, with all those concerns from my colleagues, I'm really happy we budgeted back in that position for you.
Thank you so much.
If you're shovel ready.
Okay, nothing as exciting as Ernie's, but,
Unless you have some money for us
It's
to
commercial.
fix water lines.
no, but we are submitting an application for our LTF, our local transportation funds. After tonight's meeting, I'll go ahead and submit that. And we submitted for $141,000. That will take care of our funding this year for our street maintenance and sidewalk maintenance. So we're doing that. Councilmember Marquez last meeting had asked me for some information regarding the Public Facilities Fund,
Thank you.
and that information is there for you. And I'd happy to answer any questions. Oh, let's see. The Calhoun grant, we submitted the application on Monday, and that was going to be for $500,000 for rehab projects within the city. And the only other thing is I will be out tomorrow afternoon in Sacramento attending a CalPERS disability retirement seminar. And that's all I have, if I can answer any questions.
Questions for Catherine?
Thank you for the information.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for the
Thank you,
follow-up.
Catherine. Chief?
I think this is the first council meeting I haven't been in uniform, but I had to get towed in, so I didn't have a chance to change. That was one of our patrol cars, too. What we have going on in the police department is we have a new patrol car, 04, that we purchased. It's now over at Ray's Radio, getting a radio put in and all the emergency gear. So thank you for that, and we'll be hopefully seeing that on the road, along with some other cars. We're also working on the West Side Band review coming up in October. We've had our detective attend the Cal Gangs training. That's part of my report that I reported to you last couple meetings ago when we were talking about, actually I think it was in July actually, about what was going on with the gang situation. This is a statewide database, and that's the format that we're going to be utilizing, and that's what most police departments utilize, is this Cal Gang. So now we have access to this, and we have the training. And also the countywide intelligence gang effort that's going on, that's being put together as we speak, and should be fully operational by the end of the week, from what I was told. So we're looking at that. Our detective also is our range master, and he today attended, we changed to the Glock pistols from the Berettas about 4 months ago. And so we needed to get somebody that actually knows how all the guns function in case there's parts or things that have to be repaired or replaced. There's an armor school that was put on by, it was Clovis. He also went to the Glock pistol, and so he's got that training out of the way at this point, and he just attended that today. And we're testing for our records clerk. In fact, we'll be having a written test tomorrow, and then we'll be going on to the oral board section of that. And I'm attending today. I attended a community policing workshop in Modesto, and it's, we're looking at, since we are trying to do something with gangs, and that's called an intelligence report. You have to have policies and procedures and things in place when you start gathering information on individuals and gangs and things. And so I'm going to make sure that we have everything in place so we won't have any liability or other issues that might come up out of that. So, but SOPD is sponsoring that for us. It's put on by the COPS organization out of Washington. So, any kind of questions you may have regarding what's going on in the police department?
So you wrecked another car? No. Sorry,
yeah.
I couldn't resist.
I know. People couldn't resist laughing at me as I was parked on the side of the road.
I'm sure they
with
were.
my hood open. Yeah. So.
Questions? Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Item 8, items from the public, non-agenda items. If anybody has anything that is not on the posted agenda that they would like to bring before us, now's the time. Seeing none, items from the public agenda items, when item comes before us, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and try to keep your comments to under 3 minutes. Item 9, public hearings. We have 2 tonight. Item 8, conduct public hearing and introduce ordinance number 2004-2, amending section 11-4-2 of the Newman Municipal Code, street tree regulations.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. It's come to our attention that there's been some confusion in the past on what trees the city has planted versus what trees residents have planted or the developers have planted on properties that were sold to residents. And our street tree plan and the municipal code identifies some language about street trees and taking care of street trees. So this is an item that would change one word in that ordinance. Instead of saying that street trees and street tree areas are those trees planted growing on the public right-of-way and public easements, it will say public access easements. And that's to differentiate between public access easements and public utility easements. Public utility easements extend onto the private property and could easily be confused as the city's responsibility, which they're not. They're an easement for utilities to be serviced if necessary. And most of the trees in the newer part of town have been planted by developers in accordance with our wishes, but they are on private property and are the responsibility of the homeowner. So we wanted to clarify that by saying public access easement and not public utility easement. This is a public hearing. It's been noticed and advertised, and so if you don't have any questions, we could open up the public hearing and take this up for consideration.
I have some questions. Number one, basically we're saying that trees on the street side of the sidewalk are city trees. Is that right?
Yes, and there wouldn't be trees on the street side of the sidewalk unless there's a parking strip.
Right. Okay.
Yes, but those would be.
Okay.
And I'm trusting my staff will jump up and wave their hands frantically if I'm speaking incorrectly. But yes, that's my understanding.
And then what about, for instance, in the older part, I'm saying on T Street, for instance, there are trees planted close to the street, but there are no sidewalks.
Mm-hmm. In that situation, I think we'd have to use the public right-of-way, which in most cases is a 50-foot wide from side to side, which represents the public right-of-way, to determine where the public right-of-way exists. In that situation, there isn't a sidewalk. There may be utility easement, but there's not a public access easement. So I would imagine those are, again, correct me if I'm wrong.
Those are 80-foot right-of-ways, the old street, so.
The 40 foot from the center of the street over is where, if the tree is within that, then that's it, okay. And the third one is, can the property owner trim or remove trees not deemed to be city trees?
Yes.
And by changing this?
Well, apparently, I mean, as I understand it, they could anyway because those trees were their private property, but where there has been some confusion in the past where city personnel told them they couldn't, and it even went so far as to trim them for them, as I understand it, even though they're on their private lawns, and thought that they were city responsibility. But that's
So now that we're saying they're not, they can go.
They certainly
They can
can.
trim or remove them.
Yes.
Okay. The other last question is, if the homeowner wants to replace a tree determined not to be a street tree, is he still bound by the variety of tree he can plant, or he can
We
plant
have-
anything he wants to, basically?
We have recommended trees that we
Yeah,
know do,
yeah, I know,
that
but-
do well in this valley, but if it's on private property, it's not a street tree, and it's not on this area that we maintain as street trees, they can plant pretty much what they want, as long as it doesn't become a public nuisance, a safety issue, with vision being blocked on street corners or sweeping branches that get into the public right-of-way. We have to maintain the public right-of-way, which includes the street. So if a tree is overshadowing shadowing the right-of-way, even though it may originate on the lawn, we will have to take corrective action.
Right, I understand that it's in the way of the street light or whatever.
Sure.
Okay. But that's basically what I wanted to clarify here before we head into this, because just changing that one word didn't really, I don't think, wasn't too clear, it didn't make too much sense to, outside of the fact that which were street trees and which weren't.
Well, I didn't want to change the street tree plan had a very high and noble purpose. We don't want to bother or interfere with its purposes, but we want to make sure, for purposes of liability, exactly what a street tree is.
Thank you.
John, I had a question. I think really the confusion comes from the city. I know you said it was an employee, but I think the city's position has been that those trees belong to the city, and they've so addressed it in that way. I'm not opposed to this change, but I do feel that there's a lot of citizens out there that are very confused, and the confusion does come from the city. In fact, the position that the city has taken that they shouldn't touch those trees, and to the point of they've been told that they could be fined or if they did. And so what I'm saying, what's really important is that it get out to the general public that those do belong to them and that they are responsible for them. Because this is really a change from what really was intended.
I think we've been discussing a fall newsletter, and I think this would be a good topic for fall newsletter, because as the leaves fall and tree trimming season comes upon us with the bare trees, it'd be a good topic to bring up, to identify to people what trees are street trees and what trees are not.
One other question, trees that are planted by the city in the park strip, and if they damage the sidewalk, who's responsible?
The city.
The city will replace, okay. There was a question asked by someone.
Yeah.
Any other questions for John? If not, I will open the public hearing. Would anybody like to comment on this issue? See nobody, I will close the public hearing and ask for direction.
Motion to approve the change in the Section 2, Chapter 4, Title 11 of the Newman City Code to change from public easements to public access easements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Second item on our public hearing agenda, item B, conduct public hearing and approve expenditure of supplemental law enforcement services fund.
Also known as SLEP.
As what?
It's called, it's pronounced, the acronym is actually SLEP.
Okay.
So, in any case, the city is scheduled to receive $100,000, as we have in the past 3 years, of funding from the state. This actually, so far, has made it through the budget process, and the governor or his staff has decided to not take that from us at this point. Part of the things that we have to do, though, as part of this public hearing is, and the requirements for this funding, as you can see in the report, is it has to be for frontline needs of the municipal police department. It cannot be used for supplanting a budget item, and that we have to have a public hearing. So what I've done under Schedule A is I've kind of surveyed what the needs for the police department are, and have under Attachment A, which you have gone over the what I feel are our needs for our department for this funding. The first one we're looking at is doesn't have the total cost of a police officer, but it's a partial cost of that, which is $23,250. Officer really costs us about $67,000. That's total benefits, salary, and everything. So that offsets that cost somewhat. We're also looking at capital repair and replacement of some of our police car and fixed assets, and so that goes into that fund, which replenishes things such as like laptops, patrol cars, and those kind of things. And that's for $44,300. Last thing we're looking on here is $32,450 for overtime, part-time office staff, and funds to help pay for reserve uniforms and those kind of things, equipment. What we're doing with that is we're looking at this will offset some of the overtime that's utilized for things such as bike patrol, foot patrol, bicycle rodeo, some of the other small events that we have going on, plus any other unscheduled events that occur to police departments from time to time. So that helps offset that portion of that. If, for some reason, our overtime does not get expended, we are looking at trying to utilize any other of those funds for community-based programs that we have in place, such as our VIN program, which is Volunteers in Newman, Neighborhood Watch, the Police Explorers, any kind of public safety fair, crime tip program, DARE program if we get that going again, and also anything to do with our bike patrol. And with that, I'll kind of entertain any kind of questions. And that last one is only if there's funds left over from those other items, which there rarely is. So, but in case.
Just in case.
Just in case. It is a public hearing, so
Questions?
these aren't set in stone. These are just my recommendations.
Questions for the chief from the council? If there's none, I will open the public hearing. Would anybody like to comment on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for some direction from the council.
I move that we approve the supplemental law enforcement services funds as designated by attachment A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item 10, consent calendar. Item A, approval of warrants. Item B, approval of minutes of the August 17, 2004 special joint meeting, August 17 special meeting, and August 24, 2004 regular meeting. Item C, adopt resolution number 2004-41, rejecting the claim of Miguel Oropeza. And item D, adopt resolution number 2004-42, a resolution approving the annual transportation claim and authorize the city manager to execute the same on behalf of the city of Newman.
I'd like to pull item 027378, check number, for that amount, for the $26,450. They're a tenant of mine at 1220 Main Street.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move consent calendar item D, and if there's no further, move for
I think there might be, Tim. Hang on.
addition. Okay.
I'd like to pull item C.
Item D.
Okay. Item C and D are pulled. Do we have recommendations for item A and B?
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Tim?
Yes,
Pulled
sir.
Item D?
Yeah, item D, our city finance director spoke briefly about the LTF funds, and I wanted to just make comment that sitting on Stan Clark Policy Board, we negotiated to get those funds, which are a little easier than the CMAQ funds. We have a little bit more flexibility with LTF funds, and I wanted to comment at this time, because I thought it was appropriate, about the opportunity we have for additional funds and funding projects. The Regional Surface Transportation Program funds are opening up right now through the fiscal year 05-06 through fiscal year 2009 and 10. Our 5-year target for the city of Newman is approximately $325,000. What I wanted to inform my colleagues of is that I think we should aggressively go after these funds In particular, some of the projects that are eligible include highway project, bridges, transit capital improvement, carpool, parking, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, safety improvement, and hazard elimination. The reason why I bring this up is it is my hope that we can maybe earmark some funds for our plaza project along the lines of this funding. Maybe we can get at least a stipend to get that started. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. That had come up recently in a previous STANCOG meeting, and I know that our city manager sits on the technical advisory committee. So,
Along those lines, the funding for the 5-year programming for the T funding, Transportation Enhancement Act funds are up, and we are going to apply for as much as we can for the plaza. And I'm going to be eliciting letters of support from community groups, asking them to promote this as a transportation project. Our applications due November 15th,
Yes.
so I'll be approaching everybody I can. There's going to be some, I think, $900,000 available over the next 5 years, and we're going to try to get some of that to help the plaza.
and so with that said, I would move for approval of consent calendar item D.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item C.
Yes, I pulled this because Mr. Oropez is in the audience, and I just wonder, would you like to say anything about your tree if you go up to the... Would you go to the podium, please, and just state your name so we get on our record there.
Yeah, my name is Javier Oropeza, and this is my brother Miguel Oropeza. He's the owner of the residence. And he was just a little bit of confusion, you know. It was a windy day, and my dad rides with them to work. You know, it's a week my dad takes his van, and a week he takes his car. And it was my dad's week, you know, to go with him. So he went from our house to his house and parked the van. And I just the winds came, and a branch fell over the van. And I believe a city worker went to the site and they cleaned up my brother was just thinking, or his wife actually, that they were just gonna clean the branch and, you know, it was gonna be alright. And the next time she came out of the house, there was no tree. So if you guys were saying that it belongs to him, you know, it's like they just never asked him for an opinion.
So basically, they cut down the tree altogether, or?
Yeah, they didn't say nothing to nobody. My sister and I just walked outside the house and the tree was gone.
Was it just a limb that had broken off of the tree?
Nomás con la rama, ¿verdad? Yeah, it was just a branch, I believe, and they asked for permission to trim the branches, but I guess it was easier to trim the whole tree down.
Okay.
You know?
I know the area where Mr. Oropeza lives, and it's one of these things that they are not city trees. They are, as according to our new things here, they're not considered a city tree. So we probably shouldn't have cut the tree down.
Would you like to pull this item, Dave, and do a little more investigative work on it and find out exactly the right-of-ways and all that, or?
I mean,
I would, rather than just reject the whole thing.
Well, I'd like to ask a question. Is it the issue of the $1,100 car repair bill that you're bringing up, or is it the tree?
¿Con quién hablaron que les dijeron que vinieran a reportar?
El que fue allí, el condado, sí, que mochó, dijo que nada más iban a expulsar tantito. y ya luego que se cayó el árbol que fue a mochar la rama, dije que ya venía aquí a reportarlo de la rama para que arreglar el golpe de la zona.
Okay, it says a city worker, after he asked permission to his wife, you know, to trim the, you know, the tree, I guess she talked to him afterwards, and he said that for them to come down to the city hall and tell him about the incident, and that they would repair the cost. It was, you know,
Now that,
it was their, it was, you know, a city worker was the one that proposed this to, you know, to my sister-in-law. It was, you know, we didn't know, you know.
now, as far as the damage to the car, it wasn't a city tree basically, and it was just the wind blew it, could happen anywhere. So that part we probably would have to reject, but the rest of it, as far as replacing the tree, I think we can look into that maybe, so.
Okay, that would be nice.
Okay. So
So-
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to ask a point of clarification from our city manager. Item 10C, the item that's before us, is a normalized rejection of a claim for property damage. Is that correct?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't aware of the tree missing either, so. In that case, then I would recommend that we approve item 10C.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Excuse me, can we, Ernie, can we look into that, about that tree?
Yes, I can come back with a full report once we investigate it.
Okay.
When the city workers are out there and there are some damages from trees as such, the only advice that the city workers says is to contact City Hall, and perhaps you can file a claim there, but they do not take responsibility for damages.
No, well, no, I realize that. I'm
Right.
talking about replacing the tree that they got
And
down.
as far as replacing the tree, I don't see it as any major issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. Item 11, regular business. Item A, adopt resolution number 2004-43, a resolution approving subdivision improvements in Walnut Creek Estates and authorizing John Fantasy as mayor and John French as city clerk to record a notice of completion.
Yes, Walnut Creek Estates, it's a 68-unit subdivision that's between Creek Canyon and Prince Road, and it includes approximately a 3.5-acre park. Attached is a report from Ray Little from Precision Inspection attesting that all subdivision improvements have been completed as per job plans and specifications, and that no outstanding work remains to be performed. We've also walked through the park areas, and it seems to be everything satisfactory. All of the areas that were brown have been excavated, and they've been replaced with sod. Also, throughout the subdivision, most of the driveways that did not match the garage areas have been jackhammered out and replaced. So, recommendation is that the subdivision and park be accepted.
Ernie, did you notice the two willow trees down in the basin part of the park? Do they look like they're going to make it? They were kind of brown last time I looked at them.
Those were pointed out. We were taking a look at those, and we decided to give them a chance to see if they would revive. If not, they've agreed to replace those. Also, they submitted a letter saying that they're going to continue with a 30-day maintenance period for mowing and upkeep of the parks, which I'm happy to see.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Not, can we have some direction?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2004-43, a resolution approving subdivision improvements in Walnut Creek Estates and authorizing John Fantasy as mayor and John French as city clerk to record a notice of completion.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 12, items from the city manager.
Nothing at this time.
Items from the city council members. Tim?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did want to mention upon our next agendized meeting, that we apply a closed session for governmental section for employee review. One of the things that comes to mind, I think it's been about 6 months now since the hiring of our new city manager. I think it would be appropriate for us to sit down, have a little bit of a discussion. I also would like for our city attorney to bring in the finalization of our negotiated contract agreement, which we should be able to preview. And I think with that, the only other thing that I had was I am intending to respond to a couple of items. One, the successful investigation of the police department in tandem with the sheriff's office with the homicide that occurred in our town. And I wanted to gain concurrence because I actually wanted to use city letterhead for the correspondence. And simply it is a thank you and an acknowledgement correspondence. So if there is no concerns on behalf of my colleagues, I will use city letterhead rather than my own personal from my position. And that's all I had.
Thank you, Tim. Charles?
Just one thing, I just wanted to again thank our finance director for this information. In addition to the information that we'd gotten last time regarding the facilities that we own, that I think we really need to start taking a look at and bringing it back to the council formally to begin the process of looking at building a new city hall, and again looking at our police department and looking at our public works department, because as I said prior to this meeting, those facilities are grossly inadequate, and as we continue to grow, we're going to need to take a hard look at doing those types of things. So thank you again for bringing that back.
Thank you, Charles.
Mhm.
Bob? Yeah, John Park Estates, Stephen Ranch subdivision. I know you've had some meetings with the developer, and my concern is that we always seems to be pushed by the developer to do things for him. My concern is that's going to happen again. Here we're lost 2 more weeks, and there's nothing on the agenda, and that's my concern. That where are we at this point with this concern of ours, and how are we going to address it?
The mayor and Councilmember Reed and I met repeatedly with Rick Spielman from Ranchwood, and we've been out to the site, and they've got an engineer who did a very good plan for eliminating the drainage issue, and our engineer looked at it and added additional drainage lines across the middle of the park, and we're really making progress on that. We have some real sticking points on the draft agreement. They want us to remove all reference to holding up final inspections as the city's leverage in this issue, and the committee's not committed to do that. Their issue, well, it'll all be done by December 1st or 10th. You don't have to worry about it anymore, so why don't you just get rid of this requirement that you can stop final inspections. And of course, once we sign that, and December 10th comes and goes, we have no more leverage. So their issue is that their lenders will not loan them money because they have a clouded title. They can't sell homes in escrow that have this thing hanging over their head. We're not sure we agree with that. That's always been a part of the development agreement since the original development agreement, and we've only since recently actually enforced it. And they were able to build all these houses up to this point. So we don't see it as a real issue, but to them it's a real sticking point. And we, as of Thursday, we were still talking. Friday we met with them again. Finally at 11 o'clock on Friday we said we have to get the packet out. We can't wait anymore. As they went back and forth, and they said, well, what can we do? And we said we could have a special meeting. We could call a special meeting of this council if it was so willing to do so before the next regularly scheduled council meeting to consider a new draft if our committee agrees that we have something. These members have got to agree that it's doable. As your subcommittee, they don't feel that that's doable right now with that sticking point and other things that were yet to be settled. And most of the things were settled except for that major point. And they may be able to add to this a little bit, being involved the whole time.
Well,
I think the idea of the special meeting is kind of moot because um, most of the council will be out of town this week, and you'll be out of town this week, and so it would be, by our next meeting, would be the soonest we could possibly get together on that anyway, no matter what. But they also haven't contacted us since we met with them Friday, after we went over this other changes in the design. So.
Well, they did call me yesterday and asked if we'd come up with anything. And I think when we left it, they were supposed to come up with something. So I said, we haven't come up with anything. So I think it's in their court. I don't think we're going to give on the right to use final inspections as the enforcement mechanism to get what we want from the park, because that's our only means of really getting anything done. I mean, they threw out a few other ideas, the last 20 houses to be built. How about we hold those off? You guys could do the final stuff. And it's like, if your lender has no trouble with that, why does he have trouble with anything else? It doesn't quite make sense. But that's a little late in the game. They have over 130 homes to build, and we're going to let them go to the last 20 before we. And so it's an issue. And so it's still up there. We're batting it back and forth, but I don't see any resolution. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't brought in the troops tonight, and I'm kind of glad they didn't, because those are difficult things when they bring in homeowners who are in the middle of this.
I think there was a lot of clarity spoken on behalf of my colleagues, Bob Martinez, David Reed, and Charles Marquez, notwithstanding comments by the mayor, where we sought some reprieve the last time we actually had an audience with a number of homeowners here. And I'm very appreciative of the ad hoc subcommittee between the mayor and Councilmember David Reed for mitigating through this, because we've spent an appropriate amount of time on the subject. Thank you for clarifying, David, because I would not set aside myself for an additional special meeting where you guys are hammering things out in a negotiating forum in an appropriate manner. I think Charles Marquez said it most clearly, that until something comes back to this council that is something that is agreeable and workable, why should we give up the only leverage we have, which is the occupancy permit? We're not going to get stuck with a bad park. I'll say it mildly and say it nicely like that, only because we just got a report and we just accepted from Creek Bridge, and they made the necessary adjustments for an aesthetic, nice park in our town for their development. So we're going to keep that standard, which I think is only appropriate. But I did want to commend my colleagues once again, so that we're not dealing with this at our council session.
The main problem, I think, is not so much the aesthetics of the park, it's the fact that it has to drain. It has to function as a park.
Yes.
And right now, it's a pretty good wildlife refuge. I saw several mallards and a couple of egrets out there yesterday, so I think it's working pretty well as far as that goes. So.
And just
We
to add,
are making progress with that part.
and just to add what Tim was saying, I think we just, we certainly reaffirm our support for John and Dave to make sure that they get the job done. And as Tim was saying, to have a special meeting would just, as far as I'm concerned, pull the carpet underneath
The grass under.
Yeah, pull the carpet up underneath John and Dave while they're doing that. And as I said at the last meeting, quite frankly, I don't care how many people are at the next meeting.
Yeah.
I certainly won't support even having it as an emergency item, and I know it needs 4 votes, and I'm quite confident that it won't have that. So, I think we reaffirm our support that, we don't want to see this until it's completely
And those
hammered out.
citizens that are moving to our town, we certainly applaud. They would have that expectation of us once they're residing here. They would have those expectations of us. Because if that basin is not functional, as David is alluding to, and it becomes a swampland, a marshland, they will fill up our chambers after they've moved into their home, saying, why did the city allow for this to happen? So, thank you.
And we're making progress. We met, at the park, and we told them we wanted to come up with a plan to drain, and they came back with their engineer with a plan, and we showed our engineer and Ernie, and they said not good enough. We sent it back. They came back again. Okay, we'll do whatever it takes, and we are making progress. But I talked to them today, and I told them you got to get on your lender. I mean, your lender should be confident that you're going to fix that park by the 1st of December, so there shouldn't be an issue. That's what I told them today. That, if they're confident in loaning money to you, millions of dollars, they should be confident that they're going to fix that park. So there shouldn't be an issue. So that's where it was left today. We need that language in there and get back to us. So, but it is a back and forth deal. We are moving ahead.
Okay, I just want them to understand our position.
They do.
We're not.
Believe me, they do. Right, Dave?
Yes,
They do.
so.
Well, I don't think they do.
They
But-
do, Bob.
Believe me, I don't
think they
think I don't think they understand. This is Newman. This is not Modesto. There's a world of difference. But anyway, the last comment I have, Fall Festival. I won't steal John's thunder, but I just like to thank our police chief and all the police and security that took care of the Fall Festival. He did a fantastic job, and all the people that were here. I've certainly felt safe and secure. But thank you. That's all I have.
Except the people that got arrested, they weren't too happy with him. But
Well,
they did a fine job, though.
that happens.
Thank you, Bob. Dave?
I have nothing except I want to thank Councilmember Martina and Councilmember Marquez for being the pushers in the bathtub race. We did win the race over the Gustine City Council, and that was about it. So, thank you very much.
You're not going to mention the mishap of the Gustine Council when we wrecked our tub, or did you bring that up? Or?
Well,
Oh.
it was one of those things, and now we're down to one bathtub. We have to repair the other one before next year. So.
I think we'll get it done by then. Thank you, Dave. Just wanted to comment on a couple of meetings we had this last week. I believe it was last Tuesday we met with representatives of the NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service, talking about the A line that goes through the sewer farm, and which also is going to be part of the Sherman Ranch development. That's still getting ironed out. And we actually, myself and John, we toured that farm out on, the ranch out in River Road, Mickey Sasser's, the one where he takes in drain water from agriculture and he runs it through all these marshes and ponds, and when it comes out in the end, it looks like he can drink it. I mean, UC Davis is doing a study right now to see how it can get cleaned up that fast and going into the river. So that was a very interesting deal, something to think about. And it's right here on River Road, Ville-Minuchin River, right in the end there. And then last Thursday, we attended another Army Corps of Engineers meeting about the Orr-Stemba Dam, myself, John, and George Stillman. And there was a fish and wildlife guy there that didn't really like us too much. And 5 Army Corps people, and a guy from UC Berkeley, the one that did the sycamore tree study. So it's quite an interesting meeting. We are making progress, but it's slow going. That U.S. Fish and Wildlife guy, he's a different character.
What did they say about the sycamore trees? That it wouldn't hurt them?
He doesn't know, pretty much. He come back with the study that the trees need water, but then on years where there's no water there, you can't explain how they're surviving. So they're still, working that part out. So it was a very interesting meeting in the deep halls of the Army Corps building by the Capitol. Quite an adventure. And I have a thank you note I'd like to read from Carol Rose. Thank you for the beautiful floor arrangement. It was so thoughtful to remember Bush. He loved Newman and was still very interested in what was going on. He watched all the council meetings. Fondly, Carol Rose. And that's all I have. If there's nothing else, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
That was
Nothing to say.